Xavier pulls off the season sweep of UConn. Had already beaten UConn at the Cintas Center. That was UConn's first free fall loss. That was the first. That was their first loss. Literally their first loss, and then it
Yes.
started this whole. UConn is now what, 6 of 8 they've lost.
Mhm.
Um, this game was wild. This was a wild. Like Xavier comes out, is hitting everything. UConn, I was one for, was it 13? Was that
13.
what it got
Yes.
up to before
Mhm.
they could hit anything? Um, and then UConn just decided to invite some chaos into the game. The crowd was going nuts. I thought there for a second that the crowd was going to will UConn to a W. Xavier holds off, wins the game, and I guess like it is just a regular season game in January against a team that probably won't be ranked when the next poll comes out, against a team that is, as we've said, is in a little bit of free fall, or certainly not playing good basketball right now. But I came away from this very, very impressed with Xavier because of what we just said. Like there were questions, and I never said they couldn't. It was never like when I was saying I want to wait and see what this team looks like against a good team outside of the Cintas Center. It was never like that. I expect them to be frauds. It was just I'm
That's what
curious.
Sully Boom thought.
Yeah,
That's what he heard.
I was never like I think this team sucks, and I'm gonna double down on that. It was just more like I want to caution myself from being too enamored by Xavier having just an insane home crowd. One of the top 10, I believe, according to CBK report.
Yes, and
One of the top
CBK report, if he says it, that's the law.
one of the esteemed sources we have in this sport.
I trust him more than anyone who's even been to the buildings.
So, so I wanted to see what Xavier looked like in an environment like this against a team that's a little desperate. And UConn, it got to the point where in that second half, as UConn came roaring back, if you would have covered the score based on the way UConn was just so hyped and the fans were going crazy and all that sort of thing, you would have thought that UConn had taken a 10-point lead,
Right.
that it completely swung the game. They never led. They
They
never
cut
actually.
it to 2,
They cut it to 2.
and Sean
They
Miller
got close.
said timeout.
Yeah.
And Sean Miller got the boys together, and I think they went on a 6-0 run right after that, and it
Yeah.
almost felt like, okay, well, now game over again. But like you said, it was a great moment in time. It was nice to see Connecticut had 55 points in the second half after scoring 24 in the first half. So it was nice to see the UConn that looked familiar in the second half, but they really needed this win at home. That's what's frustrating if you're a UConn fan.
Yeah, I mean,
No moral
UConn
victories.
UConn is who they are at this point, I guess. I guess like now, I'm done waiting for the UConn we saw at the start of the season to come back. I don't think they're coming back.
And
I
to
don't
be
think,
fair, we kept Tristan Newton was the fall guy. We kept saying
Yeah.
if Newton can get it together, he had a great game. He had one of his best games in quite some time. And
Andre
still,
Jackson's the new fall guy.
right.
Andre Jackson is I'm starting to get, and I love this guy. But I'm also doing the Tate Frazier thing where
And I like the guy.
I have to preface I
Right.
love him.
Right.
And the only time I ever talk about him is when I'm saying what I don't like about him right now. He's entering that Ethan Morton territory, Tate, of he does a little bit of everything, or is he doing nothing?
Right.
And is he just a liability out there?
I love do somethings.
I
like do everything's the best.
When
But
Andre
there's a lot of
Jackson
do nothing going on.
when he's on the point of that 3-2 they're playing, and he's swarming the ball, and then he's not like turning it over on the other end, and he's not taking stupid threes, and he's just slashing and grabbing offensive rebounds, and he knows who he is. Love him. There's him and David Singleton are, those are the two guys that I find myself just when they're playing well, I go freaking crazy about them. I'm like, these guys, I might be the only person in the world that thinks these guys are the best players on their team, but that's how I feel sometimes. But then every so often, Andre Jackson is not good, and I'm waiting for early season Andre Jackson to come back. I'm waiting for him to like stop. I feel I'm gonna blame Sam Vecini because I think Sam Vecini once upon a time early in the season said Andre Jackson, if he can develop a jump shot, is a first round pick with that athleticism and that defense. I don't know if that's true, but I remember Sam tweeted something about like
sounds like Sam.
Sam said he loves Andre Jackson's game. I feel like that's what's happening with him is like he's gotten into the NBA draft.
It's the worst
prep.
pool to get into.
Dude, it's terrible.
Once you're testing the waters, you're going to lose
Dude.
sight of the college basketball game. You hate to see it.
But yeah, UConn, I don't think they're getting it back. I think Aline and Calcaterra and some of these guys that were looking good at the start of the season, and that was what was so fun about them. I don't know, man. It feels like so many of these guys are regressing. Even Sonogo, dude. Sonogo was such a beast, and he's just kind of out there, and like I don't know. It's frustrating. But on the Xavier side, I also find it hilarious that at this point in the season, Xavier's like who they're going to be, and this Xavier team is going to be an offensive minded team. As you said, they gave up 55 points in the second half. And that is hilarious to me because when you think of Sean Miller's Arizona teams that were at their best, it was the exact opposite. They were playing lockdown defense with like Nick Johnson and Stanley Johnson and Aaron Gordon swatting shots, and
Right.
that was their identity, was defense. And then if anything, their offense was clunky as hell, and he just
I mean,
had
even DeAndre Ayton, the rim protection was
yeah,
what was so fascinating
yes.
about him.
And then the offense would be clunky as hell because he would at times play like 2 7-footers that couldn't play with each other, but they're out there at the same time, like just clogging the paint,
Right.
and they couldn't shoot. They could, and it's so fascinating now that like
Couldn't pass to each other.
the man took 1 year off, and someone along the way told him, "You have to make shots to win at this level." And he was like, "Okay, I'm going to change how I coach my teams."
Sully Boom.
And now he's like, "I'm going to get Sully Boom, who's a shot maker. Get this man on my team." Sully Boom obviously listens to the show, which is why he called out the people that were saying, "I want to see Xavier win outside of Cintas." So Sully, turn this part off because this is going to submarine Xavier's season if he hears this.
Oh,
But
you have more takes.
I think the fifth All-American spot, he's got a chance, dude. He's got a chance. Because as a reminder that your All-Americans right now, Zach Edey lock, Brandon Miller lock, Jalen Wilson probable lock. That's how I classify it. Drew Timme probable to. You have your Timmy doubts.
I've had my Timmy doubts, but
I
out of respect to Drew Timme because he's been here so long, I've decided to say, and I like the guy,
Yeah.
and leave it alone.
No, we did the role reversal. I was the guy that started the year that had
Right.
the
I think where my stance on Timmy is right now is I raise my eyebrows. Where I'm like, are we sure?
Yeah.
Are we sure this is going to be our first team All-American? Do we have to?
Timmy being Ethan Happ is one of my great takes I've ever had in the history of the show.
With the mustache.
Which I think like people hear and they are defensive about.
Well,
like
that's disrespectful to Ethan Happ.
Disrespectful to Ethan Happ too. Go
look at the tape.
Look at the tape, dude. Look up the numbers.
Right.
So
slow it worked.
But Timmy's going to be an All-American. That's what there's a difference between like how I would vote and what I'm telling you.
I'm talking about first team. I think he's an All-American.
He's going to be.
You think he's going to be first team?
Again, like this is not me arguing that he should be.
Right.
This is me telling you the reality of the situation
right.
is this man will be voted first team All-American.
The same people that have AP votes are going to be making these votes.
But I think that fifth spot, now Trace Jackson Davis, if he continues to play out of his mind the way he is, where he's just completely carrying Indiana on his back, it's going to be hard for him to not be named All-American. But there are a lot of candidates. Mike Miles is in the mix. Or you said Baycott's in the mix. Oscar's in the mix. There's a lot of guys. Jaquez is in the mix. Tubelis. I just want to say, Sully Boom, print the graphic, Sully Boom,
we
Legacy,
speak your name.
in the mix. Stamp it.
He's in the mix. Yeah.
So
one last thing on UConn I want to bring up before we move on. There was a headline in a story written on ESPN by Jeff Borzello, and shout out to Jeff. He does a good job. But here's the headline, and I think it will be a Duffy nominee at the end of the season. But he says UConn's Dan Hurley doesn't just yell. Now he reads, listens, and coaches differently.
Okay.
Well, here's the update. Maybe start yelling again.
Maybe start yelling. Yeah, go back to the yelling, Dan.
And a lot of people pointed out the ref that he called an effing clown against Villanova and got teed up for was the same ref that he had last night at home against Xavier. So I think that they remember. The refs, they're a little fraternity. They all talk to each other. And I think they all say the North remembers when they see Dan Hurley. They're like, you called my boy an effing clown.
Dude, you're not wrong.
And I'm going to referee accordingly.
You're not wrong, and I don't understand why more coaches don't realize this, that it's going to come back to bite you.
Right. The hit is out. Like they're coming for you now.
Holt told me that when Ohio State was in Maui and we were playing San Diego State, and they were the refs were bad both ways. They were terrible, but they were bad both ways. And I was losing my mind too at some of the calls that are being made, but I talked to Holt after that game, and he was like, yeah, I was going to pull my patented move where I get a tech on purpose, the strategic tech, where you fire the guys up by saying, I got your back, I'm going to yell at the refs for you. But then he said, it hit me that there's only like 7 refs that are on this island right now, and these same guys are going to be reffing us for the next 2 days.
Right.
So I held back and decided to just swallow it, and that was that. I was like, "Yeah, that's how you should have done because Eric Musselman learned his lesson the hard way then."
Right.
You know?
He's Eric Musselman, by the way. I mean,
And I
you
think
got to
Dan Hurley's
respect it.
running into the
He's
same
never
thing.
stopped. You
Yeah.
know, like this. I saw him the other night, and it's like this guy's yelling at the crowd, "Get up, do what you got to do." Yada yada yada. I'm like, Eric Musselman, even though that all happened in Maui, never broke his stride.
It's Mustin. I think Dan Hurley and Mustin like a self-fulfilling prophecy where they just say wild to so many refs that eventually their conspiracy theories that the refs are out to get them are actually true. They work themselves
Right.
around in a circle where you're
Right.
like, actually, the refs probably do actually hate you, and they probably do have a thing against you because.
And let's be honest, their dads are both coaches, and they grew up in
Yeah,
that
I know,
era where
I
they
know.
learned. That's how you used to work it.
Back
you know
when
what I
men were
mean?
men, dude. I'm preach.
Bill Musselman's like, that's what we
Preach.
used to do.
Dan Hurley is a product of the old Big East, man, and he's
Right.
Sean Miller is too.
Right.
Which is
And I saw Joey Calcaterra in that article I brought up. He said that's how he wants his coach to be. He said he wants his coach to be fired up, quoting
Fired, yeah.
Shakespeare
yeah.
at them and yelling at them. That's what he wants.
You know what I want him to do? Win some
Win
basketball
games.
games.
So
I want to get back to winning.
Hey there, thanks for watching Titus and Tate. For the full friend of the program experience, subscribe right below and come join us for all things college basketball. The action is heating up. Come join Titus and Tate.